And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller, the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. And let's get to it. We'll do it a little early. We'll do it again. The KIDO Kevin Miller cash code word of the day is pool. Now, earlier it was patio. Right now it's pool. And listen at 3:06 for your chance to win, to win up to $5,000. If the more words you get on KIDO Talk Radio, the more of your chances to win big money. KIDOTalkRadio.com for details. Win Kevin Miller's cash. Remember, as we move along, the more words you get, the greater your chances of winning. Well, Kanye West and the president, what's up with that? Plus, he asks millennials to put their smartphones down. Aren't they, physically attached to them? Joining us now is Brian Boucher, the Chief Operating Officer of the Millennial Solution. We've had Brian on before. Good to welcome him back to the great state of Idaho. Brian, good morning.
Yeah, good to be with you.
So, Donald Trump and Kanye West, what's that about?
Quite the relationship fostering between those two, and I'm glad to see it, honestly, because every time Kanye West tweets, Hollywood flips out and gets really concerned about 2018 and 2020. But, for me, I'm attached to my smartphone right now here on the radio, and but every day that goes by as a business owner, I get less and less excited about my smartphone, and there are days where I just want to put it down. I'm kind of in agreement with Kanye West. I think we should all take time to put it down.
Well, that's easier said than done, and it's funny because people have done studies on these, Brian. They continue to do studies. Whether you're a millennial or another age cohort, we're addicted to our phones. In fact, it's fascinating what happens when you leave your phone at home and you go through the entire day without it. It truly is a withdrawal thing.
It is. It's that feeling when you get in your car and you've driven down the road about a mile or so, and what's the likelihood that you're going to turn around to go get your phone because it's that important? I don't know. I kind of like the feeling. When I go to dinner, I put it in the glove box. I don't even take it with me anymore. But when it comes to millennials, this is their life. This is how they see the world. This is the filter through which they get their news, whether it's good or bad. And but here's the thing, that level of attachment and addiction to a phone really, really impacts your ability to get things done. And iPhones, for example, or any kind of smartphone are multitasking machines, but there's plenty of studies to suggest and say that multitasking is actually impossible. It's just task switching, and task switching is actually tremendously inefficient. So I think Kanye West is actually dropping a lot of wisdom when it comes to don't let your phone run your life. You tell your phone what to do for you.
Yeah, but are people listening?
I think the answer is no. The answer is no. I think we are more and more addicted to our phones. There are more and more apps. We get a lot of our news from our phones, YouTube, you name it. I think that he is just essentially saying, don't let your phones run your life. Don't let the technology run your life. Don't let technology tell you what you should think. That's the big thing that's driving Hollywood nuts, right? Those phones are being used as a medium by which Silicon Valley and the newsmakers of the world can tell millennials and others what to think. And the moment that he said, be a free thinker, think for yourself, that's when the liberal left started to get out of control, because they really don't want millennials, Gen Z, or any other generation thinking for themselves, because at the end of the day, the most logical argument for Americans is a free market mindset that only conservatives can offer.
Again, you take a look at the phones and you take a look at just how millennials are radicalized or mobilized when it comes to political thought. How do you explain that most of the people in the millennial generation tend to be progressive, tend to be social liberals, maybe fiscal conservatives, but they is it the influence of growing up under President Obama? What do you, the computer? What do you make of that?
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than just President Obama. Certainly, those were formative years for a lot of millennials to grow up under that president. But I think you have to look all the way back to high school, higher education, what kind of education they were being taught when they went off to college. I mean, I think it's 39% of college departments around the country admit to not having a single conservative staff member on their faculty. You know, when you look at those kinds of stats and you look at how millennials might even view Israel, for example, or Palestine, when you look at what has resulted with this generation, you have to look at who was pouring into their lives. I mean, my wife, Gabrielle, went to a conservative Christian private school, but yet they were being still taught history out of Howard Zinn, the People's History of the United States. He's an avowed socialist, right? So you have to look at the education system and what poured into this generation before we look at the results.
Brian Boucher joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. What about the president and the millennial generation? What do you make of his appeal or lack of appeal to them?
Well, it certainly has more of a lack of appeal to millennials. You know, I'm a big fan of President Trump. Our business has quadrupled in the first quarter of this year under this president, this economy, and companies hiring us to do what we do. But I love this president, and for many reasons beyond that. But if you look at some of the recent polling in the last 2 months, Democrats lost support of millennials by almost 9 points. Now, does that mean it shifted over to President Trump and Republicans? Not necessarily, but there were components of that polling that said that millennials are more inclined to trust Republicans with the economy. And they also say in those polls that they don't blame the rest of Republicans for their, perception of Trump. So in other words, if they don't like the president, they're not necessarily going to translate that dislike of the president to other Republicans in, say, the House and Senate. I have always thought that millennials are a mixed bag. I think as they get older, it could change. I think that those that are in the Midwest and the South are more like their boomer and extra conservative parents. I think millennials are very winnable with principles of the free market, entrepreneurship, opportunity, solving student loan debt with a private sector solution. I think Republicans have all the arguments to win in the world with millennials, but they're simply not using them.
Well, what would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend, look, Bernie Sanders, his former 2016 campaign manager just suggested that he might be running in 2020 for president again. Now, why did a lot of millennials like Bernie Sanders? Not because he had great solutions, but because he talked about their primary pain points. The fastest way to a person's heart is to help them with their number one problem. And conservatives need to step up and position a private sector student loan approach that would help millennials pay down their student debt faster. What we're suggesting is a student loan payment matching program whereby companies that hire millennials can offer, kind of like 401k matching, the opportunity to have their student debt paid down faster where the company matches their monthly student loan payment. We're even suggesting you should tax incentivize that and make the payments pre-tax to speed up the process by which student loans get paid down and actually put more money back into the hands of Americans.
How has it been received?
As we talked to well over 100 Fortune 500 executives around the country, pitching this idea, if you will, asking their perspective, getting their mindset on it. Many executives that I talked to said if that was available in a legislative format, meaning a pre-tax situation where a company and the employee could use pre-tax dollars to pay down student loans, they'd do it in a heartbeat.
Brian, anything else you want to share with us today?
Well, I tell you what, it's interesting. You got Starbucks, reopening today after their radical leftist racial bias training, and I guess there's one point of levity. I wonder if Roseanne Barr had time enough to make it to that racial bias training, over at Starbucks. So, I think that's interesting. I think it's Howard Schultz positioning politically, and I think it's also Starbucks leveraging their over 170,000 employees to be used by the political left in 2018 and 2020.
Brian, if people would like to get a hold of you, what can they do, sir?
Yeah, head on over to millennialsolution.com. Tons of free resources on how to optimize your millennial talent.
Brian, take care. Thank you.
Yeah, be well.
All right, Brian Boucher joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. There's a situation that's getting a lot of attention, and apparently this happened in Emmett, where you have police are investigating allegations by the parents of a 9-year-old student with disabilities that a school bus driver verbally and physically abused the boy during a confrontation on the bus. Now, this happened April 12th from the Independent School District. We've got our friend Katie Mueller from The Statesman releasing this statement. Emmett school officials have released a video of an April 12th incident on a school bus during which a school bus driver verbally and physically confronted a 9-year-old student. Jennifer Harvey, the mother of the child, believes her son was assaulted, and she reported the incident to police after seeing the video. The police in Emmett are investigating. Now, this is tough because it's a video. But we will do our very best to kind of share this with you. Remember, you're listening to 580 AM and 107.5 FM, KIDO Talk Radio.
You know what? Bring him up here. Let's go!
That doesn't sound like a friendly voice. Now, I know our friend Jim in Middleton. He's a bus driver. And I met a couple other bus drivers when I was at the Nampa Walmart. Thanks to everybody who contributed to Miller's Mission. Appreciate your generosity. I can remember my bus driver. Do you remember your bus driver? Her name was Doris. And Doris had look, I'm sure Doris was a nice person, but on the bus she was known as Mean Doris. And she had jet black red hair, had like a crew cut, and God bless little Doris, but she wasn't little. She was kind of plump like Kevin Miller. And we were all afraid of her, 7th, 8th grade, driving in. And Doris, the school bus driver, was someone you didn't mess around with. So what you're hearing is the bus driver goes back, and we're dealing with a 9-year-old, right? Come on, move. And the 9-year-old's not moving. Now the kid has disabilities. Nobody likes to be put up front. You ever notice that when you were a kid, everybody hung out in the back, all the cool kids? I like to hang out in the front, but there weren't a lot of cool kids in the front.
1, 2. Let's go. You're off of here. I'm done. Go. Up front. Nathan. I don't care if I hurt you. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Gosh, turn around.
So what you're hearing here is the kid doesn't move. She picks him up by the backpack. The kid's on the ground. She picks him up again and says, I don't care. Move.
Sit down. Go. You know what? I'm going. That's it. I'm done.
Now,
off of here.
She's, like Kevin Miller, a rotund young lady. Well, I'm not young, but she actually, the little boy is on the ground, and she has a lot of verbal agility because she's jumping on the seats and climbing over the young child.
Yeah. I want him off of my bus. I don't care if I got to call a cop to do it.
And there we have it. We're talking about a 9-year-old little boy. And you have the bus driver and Emmett saying, I don't care if I hurt you. The parent, very angry, very upset. The Emmett police are investigating. The video's edited and stuff. You have people concerned. You have the superintendent, Wayne Rush, saying to the Idaho Statesman, I still have concerns about this video. In my opinion, the Idaho Statesman has not shown an appropriate restraint in protecting the privacy of a 9-year-old child. And then it goes on and on and on. And the Statesman, of course, wants the release of this. But is this necessary? Everybody's a big fan of the media. And everybody's a big fan of shedding light on things until it's their kid. Until they're the bus driver. And I look at the Emmett School District, great school district. I look at this video, about a minute and a half. We don't know how long it was. And I look at children. Oh, we love them, but they can drive us crazy. Now, you can throw the red meat and be a complete dope and go, well, what should happen to this bus driver? Should people touch your kids, and then we can have people calling in and saying, well, don't touch my kid, I'm going to slap my kid and all this. But most of us, when we went to school, there was corporal punishment. There was discipline. Now, again, times are different. Times have changed. You don't rule by fear, you rule by cooperation. Students teach the teachers. The teachers understand they live in an uber-sensitive, liability-prone world. They just kind of have to sit there. This bus driver grabbed the kid by the backpack, tried to lift him up a couple times. The kid didn't do it. Now, whether he's, disabled, special needs, again, having done some substitute teaching with those folks, that's, again, another challenge. And he had an aide with him. Mainstreaming has challenges, but we're seeing the system right here. And again, this video the audio does not do the video justice, but at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, do you really have to charge the bus driver with assault? Is that really the way to go on this? And again, everybody's a tough guy on social media. Everybody's a tough guy on the phone. They're not so tough in the parking lot. But if this were your child, what would be your reaction? Would you call the cops? Would you deal with the principal? It's a little deep, a little different, but focus in on that in a minute, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Look, the bus driver does not come across sympathetic at all. And like I said, I would love to be on Jim's bus, but my bus driver, Doris, we did not like Doris. Now, there was one guy, his name was Mr. Connell. He was kind of crazy. He owned the bus company, and we always called him Old Man Connell. And he was a kook, but he was a happy kook. And you have, people goofing and misbehaving on the bus. This doesn't appear to be the case. What does appear the case is you have a scared young little boy, and you have an adult that's angry. Where is the restraint? Where is the compassion? Where is the empathy? 580-5436, Kevin at KIDO Talk Radio. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And getting back to school safety, what are the rules these days for kids in school? Really, what are the rules? Max in Garden City with good old Kay Millie at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, good old Kay Miller on KIDO. How you doing? I guess I'm going to upset some people, but first let me ask a question. Did the bus driver physically strike or shake the child?
From what I can see, she just picked up his backpack and then dropped him, or not dropped him, but he plopped on the ground.
Yeah, it really looks like a case of mommy's little sugar pants who's being mainstreamed. I'm so against mainstreaming. And a woman who's on a schedule and on a basic wage paycheck. And Mommy Sugar Pants decides to sprawl to the ground and have his little wham. Assault charges. That's the stupidest possible thing. These kids don't have the discipline they should have. The schools don't enforce it. They mainstream some of the most intensely stupid cases, and all it does is lower the value of a public education. I mean, how many decades now have we said, you're the product of a public education, aren't you? It's become an insult. And now, here's old mommy's little little yuppie larva, slam on the floor.
But that's the world we live in today.
I know. Well, what's the bus driver going to do? If she sits and waits for him to get over his little wham fest,
well, the bus driver now could be going to jail.
Yeah, and the thing is, she shouldn't. You know what it is? It's a politically correct society where even the laws are being bent toward political correctness. Because little brat is 9 years old, that instantly makes him a victim. Well, you want a victim? You want somebody, probably a retiree, who's driving that bus for scratch money to supplement Social Security.
Right, but on the other hand, you're dealing with a 9-year-old little boy.
That's right. You were 9 once, so was I. 9-year-olds can be absolute little turds. You know it, so do I. The kid throws a tantrum, what do? You park your bus, you wait, you're late on schedule, you get demerits from your school bus company.
I understand that. I also understand in my time you got whacked on the derriere.
In my
today,
time,
they would stuff you and cuff you for that.
Yeah, when I was a kid and you acted out like this, they'd scoop you up and just literally just drop you off the bus. Fine, kid, walk.
The good old days.
If she'd done that, of course, there would have been a host of politically correct, inspired laws to charge her with. This is wrong, and I really hope that some attorney, a good attorney, not a public pretender, can scoop up this case, make total idiots out of the ADA, and move along. This bus driver is being treated unfairly. Again, if you're a parent out there of a disabled child, a disabled 9-year-old, you know that automatically the child is empowered with a sense of entitlement because he's treated specially, because he's special, because he's handicapped in some way. Rule 1, get him out of the mainstream, give him special education or homeschool. If it's that great a disability, don't take away from the experience of the class and the children at large. On this bus, it sounds to me like another case of the kid's public display, a public wham. Look what I can do. I'm handicapped. Wham.
Max, thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning to New York City. Fox News Radio's Connie J. Powers with the very latest on, well, how not to use Twitter. Good morning.
Good morning.
Crazy day with Roseanne when you're thinking about just a career just gone up in smoke.
Yeah, and something that could have been avoided is probably the takeaway here. The fact that she put out this tweet yesterday. Well, actually, I guess it was technically on Monday, and it led to the cancellation of her show yesterday after it kind of went viral and a lot of people started to see it.
Well, not only that, but it was Ambien that made her do it.
That's what she says. Yeah, she says that she was on Ambien, and honestly, when she first posted that, it sort of looked like, okay, well, that's what she's blaming it on. And then somebody, on Twitter had pointed out, they said, well, why are you blaming Ambien for this? And then she came back and said, no, I'm not blaming Ambien. I'm just saying that was what happened. She blames herself, and it's been kind of an interesting thing to follow her Twitter feed over the last probably 12 hours, especially because she said that she was getting off of Twitter yesterday. Then she continued to tweet even throughout the night and the early morning hours, responding to people who tweeted her, even both of those in support and those against her. Very interesting thing to read.
Well, like you just said, I thought she gave up Twitter, but she's back.
Yeah, if she gave it up at all, it was for just maybe a short period of time yesterday. It didn't take very long at all for her to respond to people and keep tweeting.
Roseanne isn't new to controversy, but this probably has to be the biggest one ever. That has, cost not only her career, but when you take a look at others in Hollywood, they've tweeted something offensive, tweeted something that people wouldn't say in public.
Well, I mean, yeah, this was not new for her, especially like if you followed her career. She's always been known for being controversial. This was apparently the line that went too far, according to a lot of people, especially, the folks at ABC who canceled the show. That was apparently too far for them. There were a lot of people who kind of fell into three categories yesterday after the cancellation. There was the people who said, oh man, I can't believe you canceled their show. There were also people who said, good for ABC, I'm glad you did. And then there was another group that said, I don't know why any of you are surprised about this in the first place, and really didn't give ABC that much credit for canceling it because, a lot of people made the point of, well, you knew what she has done in the past to start with and how she has said things that were inflammatory before. Why did you put her back on the air to start with was kind of the sentiment for a lot of folks.
Yeah. What does this say about the appeal of social media that encourages people to be stupid and irresponsible?
That's a good question. I don't know. Because every time you see something like this, and we see a lot of it, obviously it's something that's extremely prevalent. And you kind of got to wonder, what were some people, what were you thinking before you put that out there? You know what I mean? And she's deleted the tweet.
Right.
But it's obviously way, way too late for that.
It's odd, though, because she kind of remade herself in Trump's America as this conservative such and such, when back in the day she was the furthest thing from it. And you had the president praising her and her ratings and such. And then she gets out of her comfort zone and delves into politics, mixes in the comedy. And it's not like Valerie Jarrett was in the news or anything. It just seems the oddest darn thing that someone out of nowhere, it's almost as if, hey, look at me, and I'm going to try and out right-wing the right wing. Because you do have people, and we don't get a lot of coverage on it, but you have people like Eric Erickson, who has remade himself the founder of Red State. He has a show on WSB, and he was ripping people many years ago about being the language of conservatism. And then you go back to his writing, which was what made him really bad things that were written. And it's just fascinating to me, and I'm trying to get myself out of this, Tanya, fascinating to me just when people will go to that gutter level. In the world we live in today, that just doesn't work.
I see exactly what you mean. I mean, it's obvious when you go on Twitter, especially. I mean, even if you just go to her timeline right now, her Twitter timeline, and see the tweets that she has gotten, both in support and against her. And the reason you can see these is not only because if you on Twitter, you have to follow the person who posts it for you to be able to see it. So even if you don't follow all these people who, are sending her these things, she's retweeting them.
Yeah.
So she's putting it out there, what people are saying to her, both good and bad.
I guess my point, and you as an award-winning journalist, a lifelong journalist, would understand this, just the hypocrisy of it all. The point I was trying to make, Roseanne, who had the gutter mouth and everything else, all of a sudden you have people on the right, oh, we agree with her, she's the best because she's pro-Trump. And back to Eric Erickson, who said a lot of horrible things about the Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was ripping Trump for his language. And you're like, well, sir, before you became mainstream, let's go back to you. I guess it's an irony someone who only follows the media would get. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I mean, people will, it's not that people don't have different opinions in different points of their life. A lot of times they do. But I see what you're saying, which is, it's difficult to square some of the things that some people who, especially folks who put their opinions out there for a living, and when they change drastically or they're something completely different than what they used to be, it does warrant, the question of, oh, wow, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, just give us consistency, whether you agree with people or not, I suppose.
Yeah.
So $50 million down the drain. Amazing, the power and the influence of social media.
It is. And all those people who, worked on the cast and crew are out of jobs. I'm sure some of them were taken care of probably from what was in their contract. I would imagine that, the agents of the stars probably, earned their money and got them a good contract. But you're talking about a lot of people who, work in the cast and, the crew that are, don't have a job to go to today.
Amazing. From one dumb thing to say, amazing, the world we live in today, that somebody has accomplished. And, let's face it, this isn't her first rodeo, would actually say those things. Just, again, a lesson for all of us. Tanya J. Powers, we always appreciate your insight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you for being our political expert.
I see what you did there.
Just had to get that in. But
I know.
But you're not. You report. We decide.
That's right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Our great friend Tanya J. Powers joining us. Let's go back to the phones. Conservative Steve, thank you for holding. You're on with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio.
How's it going, Kevin?
Not bad. Just trying to justify my
I got
existence.
a couple of points to make. As rough and crude as Roseanne is, it's just typical world we live in. Just the way it goes. It's just like the liberals. You have a freedom of speech as long as you agree with them and everything they say. And then if you disagree, then you don't have freedom of speech. But nevertheless, going back to your subject of children today, I had an incident happen to me a few years ago. I was sharing with the fellow there that just kind of blew me away. We were coming home from work, my wife and I, and we saw this young man walking down in our neighborhood, opposite side of the street. And he looked to be probably, 9, 10 years old, something in that neighborhood, about like my grandson. And we were getting ready to pull in our driveway, and we just kind of glanced because we saw him walking, and he flipped us the bird, Kevin, and just kept walking and looking straight at us. And we don't even know him. I told my wife, "Oh, whoa, that's not going to work." So I pulled in the driveway, and I backed up, and I went around the corner, and we followed this young man about 3 houses down. He walked into the front yard of his home, I assume, picked up a handful of rocks and started throwing it at the garage door in his house. And we sat there and watched him, and then the garage door came up, and his father came out and another older kid. And the father walked out, and the kid walked right by him, and yelling and stuff. And I wrote down my window. I said, "Is that your son, sir?" And he goes, "Oh, yes, it is." And I said, he just flipped my wife and I off. We don't know him. We don't know you. We don't know anything about you guys. Do you know that? And his response was, "Oh, I am so sorry. He is so angry at the world. He's angry at his mother and me, and I apologize for him." I'm telling you, Kevin, in my day, my dad would have got me by the earlobes, my friend, and let me tell you, he would have wore me out. I mean, just the notion, and that's the answer we got. That's the world we live in, pal. No control, no discipline. Let me tell you, when I was growing up, you only had to get whipped a couple of times because the whippings you got, you never forgot. And guess what? You grew up, you obeyed the laws of the land, never got in trouble. We never got in trouble because our parents would be worse than the authority, and we loved our parents and we respected adults. But that's all changed, Kevin. That has all changed. I'll never forget that. I just thought I'd share that with you.
That's a great story. Thank you, Conservative Steve. We appreciate it.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Tea Party Bob, the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Another great show. A lot of interesting things happening. Looking at this Roseanne Barr Twitter comment in perspective, I think we need to take a good hard look at how social media has desensitized us to the point where we don't even think about what we put out on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. I think that much of what has happened in the desensitization process can be traced back to the strength of our ethical and moral upbringings. This all starts with the family values instilled by our parents, and it used to be reinforced in our education system, which has deteriorated for the past 50 years because of the progressive movement, as they have slowly taken God out of our schools along with the moral and ethical behavior out of our children's lives. Roseanne was wrong in what she had tweeted out, but no different than many similar tweets made by the left about our president. We all seem to have lost our sense of right and wrong and think it's just okay to say whatever we want, whenever we want, no matter who it hurts, because everybody is somewhat anonymous because of the social media. If we all just took the time to count to 10 and think to ourselves if we're doing the right thing before sending out a tweet or putting a post on Facebook, it would go a long way in bringing back that respect we should have for one another's feelings as human beings. We need to get back to some basics in our moral and ethical standards. And just because someone says something bad about you doesn't mean you have to go back and respond to them with the same meanness. I often wonder what happened to that old saying, turn the other cheek, or do unto others as you would have them do unto you. When we lose respect for each other, we're headed down a bumpy road to destruction.
Well, but again...
Thank you, my friend. I hope you have one... Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Tea Party Bob.
All right.
I guess he just wanted to finish his statement and move along. We love Tea Party Bob. Coming up next, more of your calls, but, the idea of social media and what's it good for? Hey, I got a new plant in the backyard. Would you give me a like? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And if you missed our conversation on the minister there, God said, look, I need a $50 million Learjet, you can always go to KIDOTalkRadio.com and check out our podcast. We talked about that in the 7 o'clock hour. Great calls. As always, appreciate your contributions to Kevin Miller in the morning. And as you're rolling into the workday, don't forget Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, Lars Larson. The gang is all here. You talk, we listen. KIDO Talk Radio. Donna in Parma. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Donna.
I have a question for you and your audience. Does anyone remember when Roseanne Barr attempted to sing the national anthem?
Ah, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to put that out there.
That was bad, Rosie.
Yes, sir, it was. Well, that was all I wanted to add to this morning, and as always, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Donna. Take care in Parma.
You betcha. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning. As we said, don't worry. Great talk, great topics right here at KIDO Talk Radio. Still your chance to give to Miller's Mission. Simply go to BoiseRM.org. Help those kids get those clothes for summer, clothes for kids, BoiseRM.org. We so thank everybody who has contributed. Still time to donate, either this week or throughout the summer. Help us make a difference. And we certainly appreciate you listening every day. Thank you for listening. Ray and I, great job. And everyone else, God bless. Keep the faith. And Glenn Beck is next.